I've been to Israel many times. The whole country's a fortress. When I first heard this story, I still have the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that is an IDF soldier, right? The whole country is surveilled. And so let me just kind of go through this. We don't talk about Israeli politics very often, and most Americans don't know this. The last 9 months, Israel was on the brink of civil war. It's not an exaggeration. This judicial stuff, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets because Bibi Netanyahu is basically redefining the Israeli constitution. That's not an exaggeration, right? He said the judicial branch has too much power. There were protests planned this week against Netanyahu, where they anticipated tens of thousands of people to take to the streets. That's all gone, Patrick. Netanyahu now has an emergency government and a mandate to lead. I'm not willing to go so far that saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here, but I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. Wow. 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of Jews. Did somebody in the government say stand down? That is a legitimate, non-conspiracy question. The whole country is the IDF. The whole country is. Yeah. And you're trying to tell me that they're going to concerts and kibbutzes and schools and by report.
So there have been a lot of different, conspiracy theories and, thoughts about who could have taken Charlie Kirk's life. And that first clip that I just played was one that he did with Patrick Bet-David a while ago. I think maybe shortly after the October 7th attack. So that was roughly 2 years ago almost, because October 7th will be obviously next month. So I'm assuming that was back in 2023, the latter part of the year, obviously. And if you followed Charlie Kirk, which I've somewhat followed his career from the time when he was a little bit younger and making the rounds on the college campuses with Turning Point USA, we know that Charlie Kirk has been a staunch supporter and a staunch advocate for Israel. But over the past, few months, his rhetoric towards Israel has changed. And that clip, even though it was a while ago, that was one of the many times, especially as of recent, that Charlie Kirk questioned Israel, that he, spoke against Israel. And we know that Israel has been a big donor. Well, not the country of Israel, but he's had some really big Jewish donors for his Turning Point USA organization. And in light of this assassination, there have been just a ton of people coming up with all these different possible actors who could have taken his life. And the latest information that just came out this morning, Trump claims that there's a person of interest in custody. Supposedly a transgender radical did this, and they found a older rifle with transgender related ideology, written on some of the unspent, rounds. And it just sounds preposterous. It sounds absolutely preposterous. So this is supposedly the rifle that the alleged killer, the pro-trans killer, dropped. It was wrapped up in a towel or something like that. And they found it nearby. There's supposedly surveillance of the trans killer on the rooftop. Now, we did see videos circulating around the internet of somebody on the roof. I've watched many different videos of people who interviewed snipers, and a lot of military snipers says this did not look like a professional hit. 3 unused rounds marked with writing, it is revealed, but officials urge caution as wording could have been misread or misinterpreted. So there's no real evidence that this is true, but this is supposedly what they found in Utah. As we know, Charlie Kirk's been to Israel many times. That's him at the Wall of Shame. I'm just having a hard time believing that a radical trans pulled this off. Even though that the actual hit on Charlie may not have been professional, less than 200 yards is the official number of how far that rooftop was. And if you're a halfway decent shooter, a rifle with the scope 200 yards or less is not difficult. I've shot AR-15s, and obviously the gun that was the rifle that was supposedly used was not an AR, but a halfway decent rifle with the scope, yes, 200 yards is not very difficult if you're a halfway decent shot. It's just not, and you have a steady hand. And some people are saying, oh, well, the shot was meant for his head, and it hit low because of the drop in the bullet, because they were shooting down from the rooftop. They didn't intentionally mean to hit him in the neck. Regardless of where Charlie Kirk was hit, the shot did what they wanted the shot to do. They got him. Charlie Kirk is dead. And it's horrible, man. That was devastating. I saw the actual video, the up-close video with the blood splatter and everything. A lot of people saw it. Millions of people around the world have seen it and are still watching it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So I'm upset about it. I didn't agree with everything Charlie Kirk said, but I'm upset just for the simple fact that an innocent man, an innocent father, an innocent husband who had major influence and was turning young males, specifically Gen Z, the right way.
And Jewish donors, they have a lot of explaining to do, a lot of decoupling to do, because Jewish donors have been the number one funding mechanism of radical, open border, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies, cultural institutions, and nonprofits. This is a beast created by secular Jews. And now it's coming for Jews, and they're like, what on earth happened? And it's not just the colleges. It's the nonprofits, it's the movies, it's Hollywood, it's all of it. It's like time for you guys to wake up and say no more. Draw a line in the sand. I don't care if you hate me.
And let us not forget, see, what's happening in Palestine right now is kind of out of sight for millions of Americans that don't really pay attention to this stuff, because your average normie is not keeping up with what's happening. The Netanyahu regime, the IDF, they are literally flattening Gaza. That's what Gaza looks like right now. Tens of thousands confirmed dead, men, women, and innocent children. Okay? Hospitals are being destroyed. Churches are being destroyed. Right? Kids are allegedly being shot. Right? They have a utter hatred for the Palestinian people. Okay? And like Charlie Kirk said in the beginning of this video that I played, Israel is like a fortress around that border. Benjamin Netanyahu tweeted out shortly after the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was murdered for speaking truth and defending freedom. A lion-hearted friend of Israel, he fought the lies and stood tall for Judeo-Christian civilization. I spoke to him only 2 weeks ago and invited him to Israel. Sadly, that visit will not take place. We lost an incredible human being. His boundless pride in America and his valiant belief in free speech will leave a lasting impact. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. Benjamin Netanyahu, why are you tweeting about Charlie Kirk and you live way over in Israel? Even though he's supposed to be this great Jewish ally, you tweeted about him being murdered shortly after him being shot, long before they even announced he was dead, even though he probably died on stage. He probably was already dead before he even arrived at the hospital. They just didn't want to announce it. A person on Twitter named Harrison Smith tweeted out, I'm not going to name names, but I was told by someone close to Charlie Kirk that Charlie Kirk thinks Israel will kill him if he turns against them. And this was on August the 15th at 3 o'clock in the morning. Charlie Kirk, he probably did have some reservations about Israel and wanting his head because of the direction he was going with his rhetoric. And Harrison Smith is a commentator, contributor over at InfoWars, Alex Jones's network. Another person on Twitter, Jackson Hinkle, he tweeted out several different points. He used to be an Israel loyalist. He feared Israel would kill him. He started mildly criticizing Israel, which is all true. He said Epstein was Mossad, which is also true. He let his anti-Zionists speak at his events, which is true. Dave Smith and Tucker Carlson were allowed to speak at one of his events. Someone shot his juggler 200 yards away, which is also true. Netanyahu tweets within minutes. A patsy gets arrested and acts guilty, which is also true. An assassin escapes without a trace, which is also true. And then Netanyahu sent out a longer message. So, yeah, these are all very relevant points. And the final tweet I'm going to read, somebody put, "You guys had him killed in fear of him turning to the truth about Israel influence in America. And Israel cannot afford for Gen Z to turn on them because Gen Z is the future. And the boomers, they worship Israel." You saw Ted Cruz's interview with Tucker Carlson. If you watched it, if you haven't, please go do so. Ted Cruz is actually a Gen Xer, but he is basically very, very similar to a lot of boomers in his, just blind loyalty to Israel, supposedly because of his Christian faith. But if you are a Christian and you do know the Bible and you do know who the children of Israel were of the Bible versus who's over in Israel now, you know that the people in Israel right now are not the Israelites of the Bible. Those are not the Jews of the Bible that are over there right now. They are Ashkenazi Jews from Eastern Europe. Everybody knows it. And there has been a drastic decline in support for Israel amongst Democrats and Republicans, especially for those of us that are under the age of 50. Gen X, younger Gen Xers, millennials, and Gen Z have completely soured on Israel. Israel knows that. And Charlie Kirk, a lot of people don't understand that Charlie Kirk had huge influence on the youth, especially on these college campuses where liberals have kind of dominated these type of spaces. Charlie Kirk had the balls to go to these college campuses and do something that a lot of conservatives hadn't done yet. I think Steven Crowder was the only other one who had a significantly large platform and was actually trying to turn Gen Z males towards conservative ideology.
On Twitter, thousands of tweets and text messages. And if I were to be charitable and generous, I will say the people that are attacking me are in a hyper paranoid state because they're at war, and war tends to make things black and white, and you're a hammer looking for a nail. So I'm trying to be charitable, Megan. Literally, I'm trying to cut as much slack as I can, right? At the same time, I'm like, but it's not defensible to be dumb, right?
Yeah.
So,
and it's offensive. It's offensive to those of us who have been out there defending them in many instances against critics on our own side. And now you have a couple of comments like, well, what about this? Well, has it gone on too long? Like, is it time to wrap it up? And the thing about Epstein is just so bizarre. I don't know who he was an agent for. It might have been Israel or an asset, or it might have been nobody. But we're allowed to speculate about that. It's like there's some rule. You can't go there when it comes to Israel.
But then all of a sudden, like, I host a person that I moderate the debate of, mind you, right? And I give equal time to Josh Hammer, equal time to a pro-Israel advocate, and my moral character is being put into question. And so I think it's a hyper paranoid, like, we're just going to try to, we're going to just stamp out everything type of practice. But it goes to the point where, if, for example, if I have less ability sometimes online to criticize the Israeli government about backlash than actual Israelis do. Mm-hmm. And that's really, really weird, isn't it, Megan? That's not right. I got text about you, Megan, saying, why is Megan like doing the bidding of Hamas? I was like, what are you talking about? Megan's the best. Like, what? She's amazing. And I said, why are you texting me about Megan? And at that point, and so this is what they don't understand. You and I, Megan, and Tucker is in the same category, and they've tried to go after Tucker. Yeah. Is that and the more you attack our moral character, the more we're going to double down in a direction, because 100%. Screw you, I don't do it that way, okay? Right. On some part of the population, you can scold them into silence, right? But if I have any deviation of a purity test, any deviation whatsoever, such as hosting a focus group, right, Megan, with a bunch of our students that went viral, having Dave Smith or Tucker at my event, it is all of a sudden, oh, Charlie is a...
And that right there is the perfect segue for me to wrap this video up. Charlie Kirk had been getting phone calls, text messages, Megyn Kelly as well, because they have influence. These are very big names in the world of political discourse, right? Now, Megyn Kelly is not as much of a right-wing person as Charlie Kirk was. Most women are just not as conservative as men. Megyn Kelly has become more openly conservative over the years, specifically because of the Democrat Party's hard left stance on certain issues regarding trans and gender affirming care for these children and all this wacko stuff they're doing. I just personally don't believe that a trans radical pulled off this sophisticated of an attack. You had the two guys that were taken into custody, the old white guy saying that I did it and shoot me, shoot me, shoot me. I mean, this is the guy that they originally arrested, the old white boomer guy they were talking about. Supposedly he's Jewish. I don't know if he's Jewish or not. That's irrelevant. But it's just a lot of moving parts to this whole situation. And I have one more clip of the alleged guy that they have in custody. His name is Tyler Robinson, age 22 years old. He's a Utah resident.
Okay. Congratulations. You have been selected to receive the Resident Presidential Scholarship from Utah State University. The value of this scholarship is approximately $32,000. This scholarship is available for 4 years or 8 semesters.
I mean, just ask yourself, does that look like the guy who did it? Tyler Robinson, age 22 years old. Say he had on a baseball cap and some sunglasses. They got the rifle. They got surveillance of him jumping off the roof and, you know, cutting through some neighborhood. It's a lot out there right now. There's no concrete evidence that Mossad was behind it. But Charlie Kirk was moving in the direction of pulling away from Israel as far as his support and his just blind loyalty to them. And according to Netanyahu, he was due to visit Israel in a couple of weeks. But unfortunately, he's not going to be able to make that visit according to Netanyahu. That's what he tweeted. You can go look at the tweet yourself. Like, why is Netanyahu tweeting about the murder of Charlie Kirk? And you're way over in Israel, and you're in the middle of a war, and you got all this stuff going on in your world over there in Israel and beyond. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. We know Trump is compromised by Israel. We know that. That's obvious. But I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting over the next few days. In my opinion, they're just throwing stuff out there to see what sticks. So we went from a transgender radical to now a soy boy named Tyler Robinson. That's who they supposedly have in custody right now. He's not been proven guilty. They do not know for a fact that he did it, but they believe that he did it, or he's a major person of interest. So we shall see. The bigger picture is we lost a very influential, I guess you could say, generational talent. I think Charlie Kirk was a generational talent. Like I said, I don't agree with everything he said. Nobody does. No, you as a individual, you should never find yourself agreeing with people 100% of the time, especially if it's somebody that you don't have no real close relationship to. Even husband and wife don't always agree with each other, and they lay down and make babies together. So it's okay to have disagreements, but disagreements should never lead to a person's death. And that's if this is the outcome. If the alleged killer was indeed Tyler Robinson, or a local Utah resident, or some radicalized nut job, then you know you can say that Charlie Kirk was killed for his beliefs. But if it's deeper than that, which a lot of people believe that it is, then we know why he was really taken out. It had nothing to do with his ideology against trans people. My gut tells me that this was not a trans radical that knocked off Charlie Kirk, bro. that attack was a little bit too sophisticated for a trans radical. I just don't believe that a trans radical pulled it off. There was moving parts to it beyond the actual shooter. You had the two decoys. You had a situation where nobody else got hit but Charlie. It was a one-shot situation. It wasn't multiple. Like in Butler with Trump, that was an amateur. That dude fired multiple rounds. He killed one person, Corey Comparatori, the firefighter. Rest in peace to him. But that was clearly an amateur. Because he missed Trump. And he struck an innocent person who had nothing to do with Trump. I mean, he was a Trump supporter, but as far as, him being part of the administration or, on Trump's team, he was nowhere in that vicinity. But this situation was a lot more clean. This was a clean hit on Charlie Kirk. It was clean. It was so clean that Charlie Kirk died within minutes of the shot. I don't believe he was still breathing at the hospital. I don't believe he was in critical condition at the hospital. Not with that type of damage to his artery. His carotid artery was clearly just destroyed. No way he survived all the way to the hospital. No way. Rest in peace to Charlie Kirk. Prayers to his family. I hope justice is served and it's served swiftly. Y'all let me know what y'all think.